Hello and welcome to this Modern Materials Handling podcast. My name is Michael Levans, and I'm Group Editorial Director for Peerless Media's Supply Chain Group, which of course includes Modern Materials Handling Magazine. And I'll be your moderator for today's episode that we've titled Revolutionizing Facility Management. We're going to look at the power of intelligent locker solutions and electronic key cabinets. Now, as many of today's listeners are well aware, intelligent locker solutions and electronic key cabinets are starting to play a bigger role in improving facility management. They're proven to reduce startup times, manage equipment inventory, and of course, these solutions are leading to cost savings as they reduce instances of lost or misplaced items, which of course leads to improved resource allocation and ultimately decreased security risks. Well, today I'm joined by Brian Davidson, and Brian is Regional Sales Manager at Traka Americas. That's a company that specializes in providing intelligent key and asset management solutions. And in our conversation today, Brian is going to explain how intelligent locker solutions and electronic key cabinets are evolving in today's hectic operations environment. And he's also going to offer some of the benefits these solutions can bring to facility, security, efficiency, as well as the overall automation of the modern warehouse. And that's where everybody's head is these days. Brian, welcome. We're thrilled you can join us today.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Outstanding, Brian. So can you kind of, as we kick off here, can you kind of give us your take on the current environment facing facilities managers? Where are we and what are you seeing overall here as we roll into 2024?
Yeah, from my perspective, these facility managers are being inundated with technology because the technology is adding value to the daily operation within their business. So
Mm-hmm.
their employees are being given these handheld scanners, these ring scanners, these radios to help improve their efficiencies.
Mm-hmm.
On top of keys that have already been in these systems or in these operations for many years, and they're losing control of them. And with
Mm-hmm.
more equipment, everything has a cost to it,
Yeah.
and the equipment's certainly gonna usually add a lot more cost to an operation when it's lost versus a key. But both have a lot of accountability measures that we're able to help control.
Yep, absolutely. So we're seeing a lot more of these little assets, right, flying around our operations there to help us become more efficient. So what are some of the challenges that this environment has created for facilities management professionals due to all that sort of massive new technology?
Yeah, I mean, with scanner technology and just overall, yeah, these barcode technologies, they're not cheap.
Right.
They're rather expensive.
Yeah.
And when you have employees that are getting paid, on the lower end of the spectrum, they tend to not treat this equipment well, and
Right.
they also maybe look at advantageous ways to exploit that equipment
Hmm.
and maybe see that they can sell that online. And so the loss is one aspect of this equipment that they have to worry about. And then just overall efficiencies. How many devices do they actually need
Right.
in their daily operation? Do they actually need 100 devices, or could they maybe get away with 80 devices that were managed properly?
Right. Right. Yeah.
And with our locker systems, so we can not only help control who has access to these devices,
Hmm.
but then we have that audit trail that says, okay, Brian has this particular device that hasn't been returned in time. We can make sure it's returned back in with designated time frame. So while it's out of the system, Brian's then accountable for it,
Yep.
and he needs to return it within, let's say, 8 hours is the time frame. And if I don't return it after that 8 hours, then the system can alert you, hey, Brian hasn't returned this device. So now we can follow up and get track of that device much quicker than maybe we do in a weekly or monthly inventory on
Right.
the
Right.
and then every time Brian uses a device, maybe it comes back damaged.
Hmm.
So we need to figure out, why is Brian damaging all these devices? And when you can go through and streamline the operation, just grabbing a device off a charger, you can't beat that on an operational efficiency. But having that electronic audit trail and the accountability and the insurance or of a notification if it's not returned in time, and alerting when devices are broken,
Hmm.
it helps increase the overall efficiency of that operation.
Yep, absolutely, absolutely. So you mentioned intelligent locker solutions, right, Brian? So what are they and how do they work? Can you kind of give us that a kind of a clear definition? Explain some of the functionalities and some of the automation and security features. You started to mention a couple there, but can you kind of give us a nice big high overlook or high overview of what they are and how they work?
Sure. Yeah. So with our locker systems, uh, they manage your equipment, and we've got a variety of different style lockers to manage, whether it's a radio or a scanner or a ring scanner or a laptop or a tablet. I mean, the devices are endless that we've managed within our locker system. And so with our lockers, what we're able to do is we're able to not only secure that individual device, but we can place an RFID tag on it and we can track it going in and out of that compartment. So we know not only was the door open, but Brian actually took this device or he returned this device. And with a lot of these devices that we manage being electronic, we can incorporate charging into the locker. So when the device is returned back into the locker, we can have it so that it has to be set up on the charger or it has to be plugged in
Right.
to provide that charging for those lockers. So
Hmm.
now you have that automation of control, who's gaining access, and ensure that your processes are being followed. We can also do clever things where we call first in, first out for shared devices that allows the device that's been in the system the longest to just be automatically issued. So people don't have to worry about selecting a particular device or grabbing a device that had just been returned and doesn't have a full charge, and then getting out to their duty post or positions. And we know a lot of these facilities are not small. So if
That's
you
for
have a
sure.
device die in field, then you have to go back and get a new one. That's a lot of downtime that could be eliminated with that first in, first out.
Hmm. You mentioned also too, Brian. We talked at the kickoff of our podcast today. Electronic key cabinets. Now, where do electronic key cabinets fit into this overall solution? What are they? How they work, and how are they integrated with the intelligent locker system?
Yeah, so the key cabinets in the lockers work within our same software. It's the same profile that can access both systems. But with our key management, that was the core of our business. How Traka initially came about, we're able to manage the different keys within a facility.
Hmm.
Now, these facilities, again, they're kind of limited on the amount of keys that need to be controlled for the actual facility. But when you start looking into fleets and managing
Yep.
that fleet vehicles and who has access to those, that's where the key management can really come in. So
Hmm.
whether it's forklift or your semi trucks or your box trucks, again, the same thing with the
Right.
items. Go through and provide that accountability, that audit trail, and that control as to how long those keys are out of the system for your different vehicles, building keys, etc.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. So it goes across the board. You're not just stuck in one silo for these solutions. It can go across many, many areas. So let's talk a little bit about the solutions in action, right? Now that we have a handle on the solutions, how they work together, let's maybe get a sense from you of these in action. Can you maybe share an example of the solutions and how they're working inside a few different facilities? Maybe we start with that fleet management side inside of a distribution and shipping center. What does it look like when up and running, like for fleet managers?
Sure. Yeah. So one of our customers, they've got locations all over the country, and some of these locations are extremely remote,
Hmm.
and they're unmanaged. There isn't a manager on site, so it was for package delivery, and the drivers would come into that location and they would grab their keys and they would go out to their vehicle and go on and do their duties. Well, we all know vehicles have issues; they
Yep.
break down, and then especially with the mail delivery during peak seasons. When they hire temporary workers, those temporary workers don't treat those vehicles as
Right.
well. There's a lot of damaged or messy vehicles, and they didn't necessarily know who was driving them. Well, what we were able to do, so prior to Traka, especially if a vehicle went down, it might require a manager to drive 2 to 3 hours to get
Right.
to that
Yeah.
location to hand over those keys to that employee for that backup vehicle.
Yep.
So that's obviously a lot of time wasted for the manager having to drive out there for the driver to
Hmm.
there, wait for the key to be handed to them, and then yeah, for the customers, they're getting delayed packages. So
Hmm.
not a lot of efficiencies there. What we were able to do is we were able to install our key cabinets, have a daily audit trail over who was accessing which key and when.
Yep.
And then if there was an issue with a vehicle, they could now call into a central dispatch, say, "Hey, I'm Brian. My vehicle is not starting. I need access to a backup key." And now, within a matter of minutes, access to that backup vehicle can be assigned to me going on my way. So, adding in a lot more efficiencies,
Yep.
adding in that audit trail as to what's wrong with that vehicle, getting that whole process started as well.
Yep, absolutely. A great example. Now, how about packing and warehousing facilities? Obviously, a lot of our modern materials handling readers are in that sort of space as well. So, can you give us an example of packing and warehousing facilities?
Yep. Yeah. For like the packing and warehousing, we really see our device management lockers. This is a big stronghold there. As I said earlier, we know these facilities are usually fairly large, and not everyone necessarily comes into a single location
Hmm.
sometimes.
Right.
And even if they do, they may spend the most of their time on the other side of the facility. So what we're able to do is we're able to put our locker systems around these facilities so that it's convenient for those employees that work in that section to grab their scanners, grab their tablets, and do their work within that vicinity, and not have
Hmm.
to worry about commuting back and forth across that these large facilities to grab their device. It can then streamlines the whole issuing process. So now a manager doesn't have to be out there handing out devices. And then they've got that accountability to know,
Yep.
okay, yeah, Brian took this particular device, and then yeah, those devices are kept within that area. So other departments aren't coming over and grabbing devices that aren't necessarily part of their department's devices.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so much talk these days, Brian, about what's happening inside of retail operations. How about a quick example of the solutions that work there in a retail operation?
Yeah, again, kind of scanner management is the good one there. With retail, I've seen it so many times with scanners are just being left on top of packages, on top of shelves, forgotten. We've got one example with on the e-commerce side of the business where they're taking groceries out to the cars. Scanners are even ending up in people's trunks.
Right, right. Yep.
And there was even a theft ring that was going around popping into these outside store units and stealing all their devices. So you can only imagine the operational inefficiencies of losing all your scanners
Yep.
for a business, and the amount of money they would lose having not only the devices gone, but now they can't proceed with their sales because those devices aren't there to check. So
Yep.
we're again able to manage those devices, who has access to them, secure them, and provide better control.
Right. Absolutely, Brian. Man, it makes a lot of sense. Now, for listeners who may be on the fence and maybe looking to move in this direction, any key takeaways to encourage listeners to consider integrating these solutions to improve their overall facilities management practices? What would be sort of that key takeaway to push them over the fence, so to speak?
Yeah, we've seen probably on average a reduction of 20% in the devices needed, and a lot of our customers that have implemented our locker solutions. That's
Hmm.
probably the biggest one, being able to reduce that total number of devices. But you know, preventing losses and adding additional accountability is another huge factor. We've got a current proof of concept that's been going on at 7 different locations for a customer, and they haven't lost a single device at any of those
Wow.
locations
Oh, that's fantastic.
that used to have a loss. We
Yep.
would have seen a loss between 7 stores in a normal operation. So, yeah, the accountability is a big thing. The security is another, and then the reduction of the total number of devices helps justify the cost of our solution.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic. Well, we are up against the clock. Brian Davidson, Regional Sales Manager at Traka Americas. Brian, thank you so much for joining us today. Great job.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Appreciate it.
Right. Thank you. And thank everybody for listening to today's session. We really appreciate it. Thanks again and have a terrific day.